All right, welcome everyone. This is Katie Gochkowski, and I want to welcome you all to the Katie G podcast series, specifically Women Lawyers Making a Difference. So the mission of my podcast is for us to realize that we are great. We can be even greater, and most importantly, how are we going to bring this greatness to the world through a brand, through our business brand, all of the above. So why this podcast series? Two reasons. First of all, I truly care about humanity deeply, and I want us all to see how great we really are to be happier in our lives and in our careers. And secondly, look, I'm just like everyone else. I struggle with my own feelings of being less than, and some days are good, some days are bad, just like everybody else. So I learn, and I like to bring on guests that can bring us that learning and from their own perspective. Because I can say it a million times, but you learn better from others. So this time, the Women Lawyers Making a Difference podcast is so excited to welcome Miss Lori Costanzo. Lori is an employment lawyer in Northern California and founder and owner of Costanzo Law. So Lori, welcome.
Thank you so much. Very excited to be here.
Oh, happy to have you. So Lori, let's start by you telling us whatever you want us to know about your background, your education, your story, and your practice.
Sure. So first and foremost, I am of Italian descent. My grandparents were all on both sides were immigrants. And I'm very proud of that, as most Italians are.
That's a good book too.
And my father and my aunt were both lawyers, so they were really instrumental in me wanting to be a lawyer. I kind of knew from an early age that that's what I wanted to do. I'm not sure if I knew why, but I knew that I wanted to be a lawyer, and so that evolved over the years, of course. But then, having graduated from college and with a business major and looking to see, well, what am I going to do? Is that law degree, still what I really want? And it really was. So law school just solidified that desire to really be a good trial attorney. I mean, that's what I had hoped to achieve. And so I started out doing insurance defense work and training with some of the best trial attorneys in California. I really was fortunate. Always had male mentors because back in the day, there were not a lot of women lawyers around, certainly not a lot doing trial work. But but I always knew that at some point I was going to switch sides because my heart is more with the plaintiff side. I always felt for the underdog. And still do. And so, it's about almost 10 years ago now, I opened up my own firm. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
Fabulous. So tell me, why do you think you've always felt for the underdog? It's a great realization. How'd you come to that realization?
I think I was just brought up that way. I mean, my dad was a criminal defense attorney. He actually started out as a city prosecutor. He was the first city prosecutor in Tempe, Arizona, back when snakes were crossing, the main roads. I guess, and then he soon realized that was not for him, and so he switched over to do defense work, and then. I don't know, growing up with that. And my mom is she's such a street fighter, I guess. I mean, not literally, of course, but
I love it. It gives me these visions.
Yeah, she's this little Italian woman who always stood up to whatever wrong she would see, whether it was, me or my friends or the school or the church or, she was not afraid to speak up at all. And so I think I definitely inherited that feistiness and that fight from her. And so.
So, you raised such a good point. So since this is the Women in Law Making a Difference sub-series of my podcast, this concept of speaking up comes up a lot in my world with clients and personally for myself. So I've been talking about this a lot lately because I'm working on my third book and the editor's like, no, you have not found your speaking voice yet in this book. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Mm.
I've written 2 books. She goes, yeah, no, you're not speaking up the way you should. You haven't found your voice yet. And it has been a fascinating exploration of why and when do we speak up as women, because I get so many women coming to me saying, I don't know how to speak up. I don't know how to get what I want. I don't know how to be effective in it. I don't know how to, make people see me, to pay me what I'm worth, and to get the clients I deserve. And so this notion that your mom has always been that way and you're always that way, what do you make of it? Is it something we can learn? Or is it part of who we are? And maybe the answer from my example as writing the book is it's somewhere inside me, and putting it down on paper is the hard part, because I never thought I didn't have a voice. But as the further I go into this book, I'm like, maybe I'm also, lacking a voice, even though I can tell my clients exactly what to do. Anyway, am I making sense?
Well, I'm very surprised to hear that, and surprised to hear your editor telling you that. And super interesting because, yes, of course, that makes sense. We all, um, I think it takes a certain amount of time for us to find our voice and to be confident in using our voice, right, as effectively as we
Yes.
can. And when I was asked to do this podcast, and you asked about, maybe talk about one of the powerful lessons that I would like to share with your audience. And that's it. That goes to the core of the lesson,
So
is
let's go
because
there. What is it?
we'll just jump right in.
Yeah.
Confidence, right? I mean, I just have
Yeah.
seen so many women attorneys lack confidence, and boy, you can just see it from the get-go, and that really derails their effectiveness and their leadership abilities. And I don't know where that comes from. I don't know if that is innate, or if I think it can be learned. I mean, I never sat down with my 2 daughters, and said, this is the way you have to be, but I did show them by example. And they are 2 very boisterous, opinionated, feminist young ladies that my husband says he would never want to reckon with.
Well, see, that's a really good point, and I'm so proud of you for having that as the lesson. However, here's a distinction for us to mull over, and for the audience, for the women listening, business women in particular, think about this. So, I am confident, and Lori knows because she's worked with me, and I don't have a problem speaking up when I am representing others or in dealing with clients. I can exactly see what they need. The distinction lies somewhere in there when it's about a medium you have to cross and putting something in writing, or perhaps it's for a new audience.
Mm,
Or so maybe because you, like you said, you love taking care of the underdog and taking their position, that ability to speak up is just so obvious, right? However, maybe if you changed mediums, or your audience shifted, you wouldn't. And so you're like, well, why would I ever do that if that's the case? True. However, it's food for thought, which is what I'm getting to experience. Like, writing this 3rd book is for a very different audience and needs a different voice. And so where is that voice? Here's the deal. We all have it, as women especially. And you don't have to go outside looking for it, in my opinion. It's just recognizing that it's always there. And to your self confidence point, I've found, and you tell me what you think about this, Lori, and your experiences, and with your daughters as well. I found the self confidence is there, except it's snuffed out by stress, according to my research, right? As stress goes up, self confidence goes down. And those stressors keep piling up and they numb us. So then we lose ourselves. We don't even know who we are anymore. And so I get so many women saying, I've lost my self confidence because I have imposter syndrome. I don't even know who I am anymore. So, how do you reconcile or avoid imposter syndrome, since we're talking about speaking up and representing the underdog? And how do you make sure your girls do that too, which is a really good lesson for all of us to learn from.
Yeah, yeah. What I try to tell my girls, and also I mentor a lot of young attorneys and law clerks in my firm, and I always try to impress upon them the importance of observing other professionals
Mm.
and seeing, experiencing other professional styles, whether it's a judge or a mediator or an arbitrator or, opposing counsel or, just one of our attorneys in the office, right? Because you and I tell them I don't want you to copy anybody's style, but you need to experience and see the different styles so you can decide what style you want for
Yes.
yourself, because we are able to make a choice, right? And we certainly can decide how we want to come across and what styles we'd like to emulate, what values we'd like to emulate from other people. Um, and so that's what I know has worked for me in the past, and I was very fortunate to be in a lot of different situations where I could observe some very professional people and think about, okay, that's what not to do, or
Huh.
boy, that's how I would like to handle that situation. And that has given me so much confidence over the years. um,
I think what you're saying is incredibly important. If I was to summarize it and you tell me if you agree with this, it's about self awareness. Are you watching and learning and being aware of how you're coming across and then looking around you and going, what works for somebody else? How do we do that? In branding boot camp, which you've participated in, I always do the famous person's case study because of that, because I want everyone to look around and go, what's working for somebody? How can I emulate that? And to your point, how can I take what they're doing, not pluck it off the shelf as I'm going to wear this just like they're wearing it, but adapt it to who I am. And these are the things I think that as professional women, we don't do enough of. What do you think?
I agree. And this is why you are such a phenomenal coach.
Oh,
Because you nail it and then you take it to the next level, and so absolutely self-awareness is just a wonderful way to describe what I was getting at. Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
you do a
Yeah.
fantastic job. And, thank you for saying that about my coaching because Lori, has been a client. However, it's really about you, right? I always say I have such deep respect and admiration for all my clients because you show up. And so that I think is the biggest lesson from people like you that I get inspired and take away. And I hope that's what the audience's listeners here do too. That's why I bring fantastic women like you on because you already have that self awareness. However, you showed up and said, hey, I want to take it to the next level because I'm great. I want to go greater. And I want to, like you said, you care about what you do for a living for these employees. And you want to keep doing that better and better. And then you mentor your staff and you grow the business and you have daughters at home and you're a wife. And so it's multifaceted. So you may be doing everything well. It's just a question of how can I even be more of a great brand? That's what I think. So I think that's really something for us to think about, but we don't because we're so busy that, and now with COVID-19, it's like, oh my gosh, now, all bets are off. I just got so much stuff going on and now I got kids staying at home and I got homeschool or distance learning and women are pulling their hair out. And it makes me very sad.
It's hard. It's very hard. And yeah, and I think the more time you can just set aside, whether it's meditate for 5 or 10 minutes or, take a walk or do something so you can clear your head of the nitty gritty details that, kind of occupy your day, so you can look at it from a higher level and look down and think about, what is important to me and what am I projecting and how is that working for me. it makes a huge difference.
Yes, it does. What do you
Yeah,
do? What's your routine? Because you have
I
a really great business. It's thriving and it's growing. So what do you do
thank
that we can
you.
learn from? You're welcome.
Thank you. I have to say, as tragic as this whole pandemic is, it really has enabled me to take some time for myself. I don't have to commute. I've got a great home office. I don't have to don the suit and pumps and makeup, and so in the morning or at the end of the day, I can slip out and go for walks, and I've rekindled friendships from with friends I haven't seen in years who we met at the dog park years ago. And so now we're again setting time out in the evenings to go walking, which 7 o'clock I'd still be at the office, but now no,
Wow,
I
what
can
a
take time
great
off. Yeah.
example. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So you got to look for the silver lining always. And I have found a few. um
How are you managing your staff remotely so that they are motivated? Because that's a question clients bring me all the time, starting like
I
March
know.
21st, frankly, or something. How do
Yeah.
you keep them motivated? How do you keep track of them? And how do you make sure the clients are touched and serviced seamlessly, really? Because, hey, they're still paying us what they were paying us. They don't expect, I mean, clients are kind, assuming that we're picking the right clients. They're not going to be what's the word I'm looking for? Egregious in their expectations. But business. If we're still working, they're expecting business as usual in a case. So how do you handle that?
Absolutely. Yeah, in fact, being an employment lawyer, I have had just a number of clients contact me who are struggling with, being forced to go back to work without proper precautions. They've nurses who have contracted COVID, and then they're being asked to return still symptomatic, and so it's very stressful for them and for me. One of the things I do, I've expressed this to my staff, and they're very good at it as well, is every morning 9 o'clock we have a team meeting. It's a Zoom meeting, and so we just go around. There's 7 of us, and we all just check in and what do you have on your plate today, and just talk about that. And then we do that with our clients as well. We make calls. I have video conference meetings with my clients instead of just a phone call, so they can see me, and I see them, and it's just so valuable to have that check in with them. So
And that works. Yeah, I think, the lesson really is that people want to be touched and people want to be heard. And, in my world, and you'll know this world, when we do surveys of why people quit, employees quit, and then I'll say to them, you just got a raise. Why did you quit? This was before COVID, of course.
uh-huh,
And
uh-huh.
they'll say, well, it wasn't about the money. No one ever thanked me. No one ever checked in on me. No one appreciated me. People just want someone to care.
Mm,
And employees or clients, we're now coming around to the notion that it's important to care about your clients. Check in on your clients regularly without, because you're just doing it because you want more work. But employees are no exception. So I hope the audience is implementing some version of that, that the regular check-ins of how are you doing and how can I support you as a human, because we're all humans and we all bring our human to work. And, that's something I fundamentally work with all clients on. But it's important for you guys to do it on your own. And women are so good at this. As women, we're excellent because we have that compassionate muscle that's well built in us. And we have that mothering instinct, which there's nothing wrong with that to bring that to work in
it's
a
so
good
true.
way, right?
Yeah, it's so true. And then um, to take it one step more, schedule that one-on-one. Maybe every week meet with someone different for a half hour, right? And your employee feels so valued, and it's a great time to tell them, what a great job they're doing, and let them tell you about any problems they're having. And I could just see how much value it adds. Um, And I can't take credit for this. My husband, who's who's a high tech entrepreneur, is the one who really pushed me to do this, because he's worked at large companies like Microsoft and Dolby, and he's like, no, you got to have a one-on-one. And and most attorneys, it's just such a foreign concept, because you're right next to each other. Your offices are right next to each other, and you're constantly, popping in and saying stuff. But in this environment, you really have to make that effort.
Yeah, because everyone feels so isolated. And, that's been talked about ad nauseum. I don't know if we, again, stop with enough self awareness and go, yeah, what's my part to play as a woman professional in mitigating that? And how would I like to be treated in that situation? And what's missing from this equation? If I'm expecting people to still churn out the work, where am I really caring for my staff? And that just grows a business, right? And it grows diversity in the business too, on top of it. It's been my experience
Yes.
with what's going on in the world, with diversity and bias and discrimination. When
Mhm.
you take time and have a great brand and develop the brands of all employees, then everyone has their unique voice and everyone feels valued. And then the diversity flourishes because they're allowed to speak up and they feel like they can bring their individuality to work, and it's respected and it's honored, and they respect each other's differences. And so the toxic work culture, I found, dissipates.
You're exactly right. Very much so. Yeah, diversity is so key in all that we do. But yeah, I can't say enough about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, um, any other lessons for us to learn before we go to part two?
I think that's about it. Yeah.
Well, that was a lot. I wouldn't downplay that. It was great lessons, and it's good to see it in action through your business growth and your employees flourishing. So, part two is really about you and the audience. I find that when we do this part where you bring something that's been taking up your thinking time, or you have an issue that you want to coach through with me, everyone else learns from you, and I want this to really be an example for others. When we get vulnerable and we bring our stuff to the table and ask for support and guidance, then we look like a rock star brand, because we're saying, hey, I got this figured out, but I could use a little more dialogue on it to make sure it evolves. So it helps the audience, it gives you answers, and it's a win-win. So what's that one thing that's keeping you up at night, or it's been taking up your thinking time, that you want coaching around?
Well, I've given this a lot of thought. One of the things that's been bothering me, not just because of the pandemic, it's always been a concern since I opened up my practice, is finding and keeping really good talent.
Mm.
That has been such a struggle for me. And I don't think I'm alone. And I just don't understand it because there's, I don't know. I don't know what barriers I need to push through, or I don't know.
Yeah, let's talk about that. That's a really good example of a successful person, however, that wants to look at it from a different perspective to see what barriers there still are. So, what would a successful solution to that look like for you? If you were successfully making those hires, what would that look like? Is that a good way to frame it? And if not, let's rephrase it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean, like the ideal candidate, or
Well, the ideal, if you were hiring exactly the way you want to do, if you that you want the result to be, what would you be doing differently?
oh yes, good, yeah, great question. No, that's an easy question. I think about it all the time. I would be able to step back and not have to do as much lawyering, and I would be able to manage the firm and really explore taking on different work, not so much different work, but more work, more pro bono work. I like working with the Time's Up Defense League, um, taking on Title IX cases, taking on cases that are really meaningful, that I could do more pro bono.
That sounds so exciting. I really want that for you. So I want us to bust out a solution. So what do you think has been keeping you from getting there to date?
Well, I have a really good team, but they're young, and I
Mm.
really am looking for attorneys who have experience, at least 10 years or more. And so many women have opted out of the legal profession. And then the ones that I know are all doing defense work. It's very safe, it's
Uh,
lucrative. Um, and I talk to my colleagues about this all the time. And they're like, yeah, of course, Lori, nobody wants to do your job. It's hard. it's, it's too hard.
well, let me tell you, I know it sounds like by default you're being punished for it, but you're not. You know,
Well,
I applaud you for doing the hard work. I really do. And you're not being punished for it. It just becomes you just answered the question yourself. You have to look, I believe, for personality types that are like yours. And I'm not saying that because I want you to have matchy everyone, many Loris running around there. Exactly the opposite. However, it goes with the passion and the purpose. The employment lawyers that do what you do that I know, and I have several of you as clients, all have this real sense of obligation as to taking care of the underdog. And it is so, oh, it's inspiring and it's noble. And there's nothing wrong with that or with the other side of not wanting that, but it's very clear. So I would say, Lori, you're right. You get the younger people that you groom. However, I would make a list of what qualities you're looking for in a seasoned employment lawyer that practices in your area. List those qualities, and it may be just as easy as looking at your own qualities that make you good at what you do, and then pin that up somewhere and then start looking at your world from that vantage point. So wherever you show up, and right now I know everything's virtual networking, but you have an expansive network, and look at people from that place. And so, look, it may be that you convert people at some level from their area of practice, and you're like, I'm not going to teach a 45-year-old, the employment law. That doesn't make them seasoned. It's one variable, it's one way to look at it. But I think
mhm.
beyond their substantive ability to practice your type of law and know the substantive work, it's about their quality and their drive in terms of what they believe in and how they aspire to protect employees and the workplace, right? So I also see mergers as a very good option there. And maybe you're like, no, I don't want to work with other, I don't want to grow the firm that way. It's something to think about. I would list all the options for yourself, as crazy as they may sound. List them. I mean, list it and see where it plays out. And then I would just start showing up places. And those people that really feel your passion and your purpose, maybe in another firm, so you're not poaching them, they're just showing up and saying, I like you, I like your brand, I like what you stand for, I want to work with you, as opposed to work with another firm. And so people self-select in, is what I find. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. Um, and I think I need to just spend a lot more time going through the list, right? And then thinking of ways and think, I bet I know people and I'm just not making those connections. And I've been spending too much time feeling sorry for myself. Uh, I go, why can't I have a partner? Why can't I, you
Right.
know,
No,
um,
I get it.
but yeah, because there are like-minded individuals out there. I know there's a lot of strong women lawyers who would love to fight the good fight. It's just connecting with them.
Yeah, and you're not trying to sell them or convert them. It's
Right.
just if they don't know what you're looking for, they don't even stand up and listen and look around. We just keep our head down doing our own thing unless somebody makes enough noise or shows up and inspires us to where we stop and listen, right? Like I always say, we're all so over texted, over tweeted, over caffeinated. People aren't looking around and remembering us, which is the whole point of developing our brand, right? So that we're memorable, because everyone's attention span is so short. So the reason I asked you to make that list for yourself of those characteristics is so that you have to be aware of what you want before you can show up and have that dialogue with people. It's like in our coaching work, I always say to you and all other clients, what are those 5 adjectives so you know how you want to show up? So you have an intention, and you're in control, and it's powerful, right? To set that intention and then show up and kind of just own it. And then people gravitate towards that. It's a weird thing. Like attracts like, as in science.
Mm.
It always says, and the vibe we put out there as a result. It's the nonverbal, really. And I know some of you who have no idea or not familiar with my work, that may sound crazy, but nothing in my world, 1+1 does not equal 2, as Lori can attest to. It's just about the emotional value of what we want and what we put out there and then what we get back. And hiring is no exception in my world.
Yeah, very good points.
Good. Anything else around that?
No, I think I need to devote more time to this. It's not going to just happen. I got to make it happen.
Yeah, that's the other thing. We're so busy doing the substantive work, like you said, and being good mothers and good wives, and juggling the admin part of running the firm too, that it's challenging. But calendar it, just like anything else. Like I always tell all of you, calendar it, and maybe it's 30 minutes once a week. You just sit and think about it and put time into the list. And then you forget about it until next week at the same time, and you do that for 4 weeks, and that's a total of what, 2 hours over 4 weeks, and maybe that's all you need until you gain what feels like clarity and empowerment to you, and then it'll evolve. But calendaring is so important. I calendar everything because otherwise it slips, and things that are important to me, I've found, are not on my calendar generally. No offense to my clients, but these things are important, but they don't take a front seat because you cannot ignore your clients, right? So what slips is this stuff.
Yeah, I think that is such a good point to to put a fine tune on, because I, having worked with you, I have gotten in the habit of penciling in and calendaring time to do things. And of course, nobody's perfect, and I have not calendared time to really spend searching, and that's what I need to do because it works for every other part of my life.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah,
And you said it so well, no one's perfect and we're evolving. That's the beautiful part of it. It's just having faith. And that has nothing to do with religion, folks. Absolutely nothing. It's just to keep going because you feel like you're on the right path. And then you meander, and maybe you get lost on that path. But the point is, you have faith that you're going down a path and it's intentional. And when you meander or get lost, you get back on the path somehow, and you pick it back up where you left off, and you don't come down hard on yourself. And I say that for all of your benefits, but I also say that for my own benefit because I need to hear it too, because I'm a perfectionist. All good lawyers are perfectionists, I'm convinced, because we do the substantive work so well from that place. But that doesn't always make us kind to ourselves. So there you
yeah,
go.
yep.
All right. Any last parting words for us?
Oh, I can't say anything more than what you've already said. You put it so well.
Oh, well,
But
thank
I love, having the faith in yourself that you can do it and persevere. And yeah, get back on track. You might get derailed for a little bit, but get back on track.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. So was that helpful?
Very helpful.
Good,
Thank you.
good, good. Thank you for having the, the insights to bring to the table. Really appreciate that. If people want to find you and reach out to you, whether other lawyers want to connect or potential clients, where can they find you, Lori?
Oh, they can probably get me off my website, www.costanzolaw.com, or wait, Costanzo-law.com. Whoa, haven't said that in a while.
I know, I actually do that same thing. Isn't that funny?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
hope no one ever asks me for my phone number because that's a thing of the past. Now we're
Right.
getting
Yeah,
our websites. Oh yeah, it's
yeah,
also going. Okay, that's
yeah.
where they can find you, and I know you've got good content on there as well. So, and then you're also now co-chairing a really important event coming up in San Jose. Tell us a little bit about that.
I am. Thank you for mentioning that. It is the 8th annual Women Lawyers Symposium that I have been chairing for, gosh, I guess 7 years now. We'll be celebrating the women's right to vote 100-year anniversary. And our keynote speaker is going to be Senator Hannah Beth Jackson, who was one of the authors of the California Fair Pay Act bill, which I'm sure everyone knows about and is very excited about. And we're having, so she'll be the keynote speaker, and then we're having 4 other very interesting professionals. Katie, you're one of them, and you'll be talking about personal branding and marketing for women in this lovely era that we find ourselves in under the pandemic. We will have Justice Jamie Jacobs May, retired and working for JAMS. She is a phenomenal mediator, and she is going to talk about bias in mediations. And then we have Anne Ravel, who has been in and out of politics. She's currently running for one of the seats. Gosh, I hope I don't get this wrong. I think out of Palo Alto. Oh dear, Anne is going to kill me. And she's also an attorney for McManus and Faulkner, a very well-known firm in San Jose. And she'll be talking about civic engagement for women lawyers. So
Fantastic. And we're
yeah.
going to try to include the link to that. I know, some of you may be listening to this after it's already passed. However, if not, and if you're up for it, there's a registration link that goes with that. So we'll include that as well. Anything else, Lori, before I let you get back to your very busy day?
No, Katie, thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
My pleasure. Thanks for joining us. And to the listeners out there, I hope this content was of value, helpful, made you stop and think about your brand, how to make it greater, how to really evolve, and the lessons that Lori taught us. She runs a successful law firm. And what can you glean from that, whether you're a professional woman who's a lawyer or not? And how can you take that and make it work for you? So if you found this content valuable, please share it with other women professionals who you think could benefit. Because we want to help each other. And as I heard the ABA president last year, Judy Perry Martinez, say, when you climb the ladder, don't pull the ladder up behind you. I love that. It's just such a visual that stays with me. So don't pull the ladder up. If you listen and you learn something, leave the ladder down, share it with somebody else who can benefit as well. And until next time, Ketty G out.